Hi, my name's Andy, and I'm one of the creators of Memory Stream. Today, we're going to be taking a bit of a look at what's behind the curtains on Memory Stream. The thing about a product like this is that it's really important that you understand how it works and before you buy it, and make sure it's the right thing for you and for the people who may end up using it. So here we're at the login screen on the app itself rather than the website, which you may have seen already. And we're just going to go ahead and sign in. If you've just purchased Memory Stream, you would use the sign up function, and you would use the same email address that you created the order with. So if you bought it using hello@memorystream.co, that would be the email address that you registered with, and that's how we keep track of who has bought what. And when we jump on in here, the first thing that we're going to see is that there is no story projects created yet, and that's what we're going to do today. We're just going to create our first story project and make sure that it all looks good and does what it's supposed to do. So along here, over time, what we're going to see is our stats populate. They're going to pop up in here, and we've got none yet, so there's none there. But let's go ahead and click that create your first story button. Now, in this case, it's Memory Stream for one, so that's just me. I'll be writing my own story. If it was for someone else, your mum, dad, a significant other, you would use this option. Now, at this stage, the recipient will receive an invitation to come to Memory Stream. So if this is a gift and you are filling that out early and they don't know about it yet, they will get that email. So it's really important that you do this on the day, potentially even do it with them. Now we're going to need a title for our book, and this is where all of that happens. Now the first thing I would say is that most people figure out the title to their book towards the end, and yeah, it's totally okay. So at the moment we'll just go my story, and we're just going to use the same thing in our description. Usually when we come back later and we've really written this, that's where we come up with our great names, you know, a collection of stories from a life worth living, or, you know, so far so good, or a life on the sea, whatever it is. But at this stage, if you've got the name for your book, great. If you don't, that's okay. We can always change it at a later date. Now we're going to jump into the next part here. Now this is pretty important. We are going to fill out all of our information that we've got here. Now, I'm just going to use my information. So my name's Andy Jones. I will use a slightly different birth year, and we'll just say I was born in 1983. Your name's important because we're going to use your name throughout it. This is your personal memoir. Your birth year is important because we speak to people in different ways, you know, and context is so important. So your birth year is going to help generate a set of questions and follow-up questions that are directly relevant to the time and the place you grew up in. Moving on to the next one is our hometown. Now, this isn't necessarily where you were born. This is where you remember growing up. Where was your childhood spent? So in my case, that was Christchurch, but for you, it'll be something else. Now, where are you now? Now, no, I'm not actually in Perth, but we'll pretend it's Perth for the purpose of these demos. Just another New Zealander moving to Australia. Sorry, Australia. And this is going to be relevant to sort of telling that journey. If you've never left your hometown, cool. You can put it in both places, or you can leave this empty. The system will understand that. Now, this next section is also pretty important. Now, this particular character, I've never built a house in my life, and I've dug a few holes and a few lawns, but I've never been a landscaper. But for this person, we're going to make them a builder throughout the first part of their life, from 2001 to 2022. And then it looks like he's maybe pulled out of the building industry when things have got a bit tougher, and he's gone off and become a dog washer, and he's still doing that job till today. Now, if you're a doctor or you've spent some time in higher education, this is the place that you would add in those years in university and where you studied it and what you did. And all of this additional context it's all helping to make sure that these questions that are going to be generated to you in this interview that you're going to be going through over the next days and weeks and months, however long you choose to take, just make sure everything's going to be relevant. So if you really like the All Blacks, or you really like the Australian cricket team, or you're a massive Hawthorn fan, whatever it is, you can add those sorts of things in here if sports is your interest. If you like sci-fi books, if you like writing, art, candlelit dinners and walks along the beach, this is the place to put that information. Now, our particular character here, who he happens to like riding horses, baking, flying kites, and tending to his goats. So that's a pretty full life, I'd say. Now, the next thing we're going to add in here is our family information. Now, I get a few questions about this from people saying that they basically don't like their family, and they don't want to have to put their family information in because they don't want any questions to be related to that. That's totally cool. Our character today, he does like his family, so we're going to add his family in. He's got a mum, Annie, a dad, Jimmy. His sister is Alex. We might make Alex an older sister, and let's just, for a little bit more context, let's give the system the age of the daughter. And his wife, we probably won't give away the wife's age, but all of these little bits of context, they're all going to build out to give our system way more information on where to put and place these questions, because everyone's at a different time and a place in their life. So this guy is obviously, he's going to be 42, something like that at the moment. And then we can see a broad range of hobbies. If these are left empty, your questions are going to be more generic. If they're full and you can get a bit of information in there, well, then your questions will be more directly relevant. Now, we'll talk about why that's important more in just a moment. But just jumping onto the story focus areas section here. Now, let's say that you've gone and done something, or you've been a part of something that wasn't an occupation. It wasn't your training. It wasn't your education. It probably doesn't fit into being a hobby. But let's say you sailed around the world when you were young, or perhaps you went barefoot backpacking for 4 or 5 years across India. This is the place to put that. And so this is an area where, if there's perhaps you're doing this for your mum and your dad, this is an area where we really want to bring that extra focus in. Let's click next though. We won't do anything with our pretend character here today. This screen is important. Just sense check all of this. Make sure that your spelling is where it needs to be. And yeah, if the spelling is wrong here, if you get your wife's names wrong, the question is it's going to be wrong throughout the book. You can change it. You can edit anything at any point. But to make your life a bit easier, just check this page, and then we'll hit create on the story. Now, what's happening now is that the system is generating this set of questions. There'll be anywhere, it says 25 here, but there'll be anywhere from sort of 23 to 30, depending on how much context you've given it. And those questions are going to be our scaffolding for our book. And this is going to be what leads us through to the groundwork. And so in this case, this is in chronological order, so we can see the first question is what's your earliest memory of growing up, and it's relevant to the place as well. One of the things I learned in testing early on is that if the question's not right, then the answer will be pretty average. And we've designed this platform to help people really delve into their life story and really produce something that's comprehensive and is true to who they are. So in this case, yeah, we can see what's your earliest memory of growing up in Christchurch. We won't answer a question today, but just for your own knowledge, we click we're ready to answer, and if we click this red button here, we'll start the recording. Now we'll do this in another video, but let's just take a look at the rest of these questions. And it's just delving into our family dynamics here a little bit. Now, these questions are unique to you. They're going to be different for every single person. And these questions are designed to really unpick the things that maybe other people didn't know about you. What was it like growing up? What were your mum and what was the dynamic like in your family? Was your mum the leader? Was your father the leader? Was your sister bossy? What was it like? And so then we delve into our sibling a little bit further. Now, one thing I will say here is that sometimes the question isn't going to feel quite right for you. And as an example, you might not want to say whether your bigger sister was an influence on you. For me, my big sister was a massive influence on me. But let's just say perhaps that this part of this question is great. The first part, what was it like to have Alex as an older sister? And did she, but we might not like this. So we can actually delete this and save the question, and it will, it's there ready to go for you. So now as we're moving through, we can see we're delving into the hobbies. Now, something that might happen from time to time is it may not make sense for this to be where it is. So we hit reorder. And let's say we didn't start riding horses really until we were sort of 15, 16 after we left school. So we can drop down the riding horses questions down under those school questions and just maybe put it chronologically where it's supposed to be later on for our book. And that's that saved down there. Now, moving into our school years, there'll be some school year questions in here, and they'll just progress, and the questions progress with it as well. Now, here's where we start to see that time period relevance. It would have been very different for someone growing up in the early, becoming an adult in the early 2000s, growing up in the 80s and 90s, to what it would have been to someone growing up in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And so, in this case, we're saying, what was it like stepping into adulthood in the early 2000s? Well, I can actually answer that. It was pretty awesome because technology seemed to start coming from everywhere. And was there any surprises? And again, these sets of questions are supposed to be the inspiration to your story. And so what we start to see is that as we start answering them and we start delving into it, sometimes we might actually tweak the question to better suit the answer. And that's okay. That's totally okay. Again, this is the scaffolding to allow you to produce your story. And moving down, we continue through, what's one of your favorite memories with your wife, Jane? And we just keep going. Once we've got these done, in this case, we've got 25 questions. You can see that for a 44-year-old, some of these questions are, for a 44-year-old, you've still got a few more years to live, right? So we start to delve into some of the deeper stuff here. But what we tend to see is what happens along this journey is it starts to jog your memory and you start to think of other questions that would be directly relevant. And so here we can add our custom questions and add in things that you might like to add to your story. Perhaps you would like to elaborate on a particular person. So you might say something like, my mate Mike, ... because Mike's a bit of a character. We're going to add that in. Our custom question has been added successfully, and we're going to find that down the bottom here. Now, you're going to have some characters in your life that probably deserve a chapter each, and we can go ahead and drop those in. We will have spoken about your family. If you've put your extended friend group into that section earlier, or perhaps you could have used one of the boxes to add in your broader circle of friends. They will show up in here and in these questions. But this is our scaffolding, and this is the beginning of what we do. What's amazing about this platform that we've built, and we'll get into it in just a moment, is that once we answer some of these questions, that's really where the magic happens. And we're going to talk about the SMART questions and also the follow-up questions that we can't see at the moment in the next recording. Until then, thanks for listening, and we really hope you enjoy using Memory Stream to record your life story.